So, here we are, back at it again, talking about the logistics of whether or not dragons mate in the air. As you can see, I have a nice script here. I didn't think this through, because it's not that easy to fucking read with the mask on, but I'll do my best. So, this is a discussion that tries to tackle the issue of whether or not dragons do indeed mate in the air. I will try to remain as objective as possible, but I will state now that I do have a bias towards dragons not mating in the air. Before I begin, it needs to be confirmed if dragons can mate in the air. For if they cannot, there's no reason to have this discussion to begin with. But before we even get into that, we already run into an issue. What type of dragons are we talking about? Are we using the umbrella term for dragon? Or are we specifically talking about the Western type of dragon? As I feel that this debate involves all types of dragons, the term dragon will be used as the umbrella term that includes all types of dragons. For a bit more specification, I will be using this chart as I feel it goes over a good number of the species you can look at, and I will be discussing, talking about each of the species to see if they are able to mate in the air. As we are including multiple species, it also needs to be known if there is a need to mate in the air. Not all species are equal and might not be the apex predator of the area. One must also consider what type of environment the dragon is inhabiting, as this would also factor in if there is a need to mate in the air. Now we can begin discussing if a dragon can mate in the air. For this to be possible, the dragon needs to be able to fly. Looking at this chart, we can eliminate these dragons, as they do not possess any ability to fly. These dragons will be excluded from the conversation for the time being, as they don't hold any relevance. As these remaining dragons are able to fly, it is possible for them to mate in the air. There are two possible ways these dragons could go about mating in the air. They could climb up really high and fall and mate while falling. The other method would be that they carry each other as they fly through the sky and mate. Each of these methods would be different for each dragon type. So I will go over how each dragon would be affected. So we will be starting off with the Wyvern. This type of dragon is very large and has a huge wingspan that allows for easy flight. However, because it is so big, trying to carry a mate in the air might also be heavily taxing. For this reason, I believe they would fall while mating if they were able to mate, or if they were to mate in the air. As wyverns are a large species of predators, they would most likely be the apex predator of the area. This would put their need to mate in the air relatively low, as there is not much that would do them harm. Due to wyverns' superb flight ability, they would inhabit high mountains or some area along the ocean front, as these locations would give them easy access to prey, and additionally deter other animals from stealing from their caves or coves or lairs, whatever they want to call their homes. As the wyvern would most likely fall if it were to mate in the air, it would be quite dangerous for it to carry out this mating ritual in its mountainous environment. The high winds and uneven, cloudy covered terrain would make it difficult to predict where the ground is, and thus increasing the risk of death. But for the wyverns living along the coast, they only need to worry about hitting the water too hard or at the wrong angle. For these reasons, I believe that the wyverns that live in the mountainous terrain would not mate in the air, and instead find a cave or flat spot in a nearby meadow and mate on the ground. But the wyverns that live near the coast or ocean would have a higher chance of mating in the air, as they would spend a large amount of their time in the air looking for food, and this would just make the convenience of fornicating easier. Next up, we have the cockatrices. In this chart, they are depicted as quite small, but I've also seen them depicted as large as any other western dragon. So, I will place their size as no larger than a horse, but no smaller than a medium-sized dog. As the cockatrices are akin to chickens, their flight ability is extremely limited. I would place their flight ability to be anywhere between 5 to 15 seconds, depending on how strong they are. As their flight ability is so limited, this type of dragon would most definitely mate on the ground, perhaps in a burrow or in a nest of their own making. The next type of dragon is the Ampitheres. This type of dragon is like the Quetzalcoatl, but with wings. I probably pronounced both those names wrong, and you know what? Cool. They can be found in a wide variety of environments and can grow to be quite large. As they need to flap their wings to fly, it would be more difficult for this species to carry a mate while flying, especially if they grow to a bigger size. The Amphitheres can inhabit a large variety of environments, ranging from jungles to the sands in the desert to forests. This variety in environments leaves them open to being preyed upon by many other types of animals, especially when they are younger. But because they are younger, they are also lighter. This lightness would make it easier for a young Ampitheres to mate with their partner in the air, perhaps flying up quickly and releasing into their partner on the fall back down. As the Ampitheres gets older, bigger, heavier, and has staked out more of its territory, it would be more likely for it to mate on the ground, where the risk of being attacked while mating is lower. Up next is Quetzalcoatl and the Long Dragon. I place these two together as they are very similar to each other in terms of both environment and size. The only real difference is that the Long Dragon has legs, Quetzalcoatl does not. These dragons both possess the unique ability to fly without wings. This means they don't have to worry about carrying their partner while mating, as their partner is able to provide lift of their own at any point. The Quetzalcoatl would be the apex predator in its area due to the size and strength, and the Long Dragon's environment means that it only needs to compete with the other members of its kind. Coupled with the ability to fly as they please, both types of dragons could choose where and how they mate. It really just depends on how kinky they are feeling. Next type of dragon is the Western Dragon. This dragon is similar to the Wyvern, except it lives in more mountainous areas or some secluded area in some forests or meadows. The dragon is also bigger and heavier than the Wyvern, and is not built to fly as long due to it not having wings for limbs. The Western Dragon would also fall while mating due to its weight and need to flap to fly. However, due to the regions the Western Dragon lives, mating in the air might pose more of a risk and would be very risky. It'd be much safer for it, and more convenient, for it to mate on the ground where it has the safety of its own territory that it has almost rulership over. The last type of dragon on the list is the Fae. As you can see from the chart, this type of dragon is very small and built very much like a fairy. This would mean that any number of animals would be likely to snack upon it, putting the need for safe mating environment fairly high. This type of dragon lives in heavily forested regions. This gives it many trees and bushes to hide in from potential predators. In these hiding spots, it could mate with a potential partner, as they are safe from any predator that would do them harm. But due to this dragon's small size and fairy-like weight, it would be very possible for this dragon to mate in the air like a bug. Flying through the air while mating would keep potential predators on the run, ensuring that the next clutch is properly fertilized. One might also ask about anther dragons and their ability to mate in the air. However, it's my belief that anthros are not a subspecies, but their own species. As an anthro is a cross between a human and any other species, and is able to produce viable young, this makes it its own species. This would place anthro dragons as a genus in the anthro species category, and not a genus in the dragon species. As it's been noted that most anthros with wings should not possess the ability to fly. Look at these animals. Want to say anything similar? Their wings all continue down the length of their body, and they have a large wingspan so that they're able to generate lift. Now, if you look at an anthro's wings design, not only do they not have a long wingspan, their wings don't have enough skin to be able to create enough lift for flight, meaning they could not mate in the air naturally if they wanted to. And with that, I bring this discussion to a close. While not every dragon possesses the ability to mate in the air, there are a number that do. Whether they choose to engage in that type of mating ritual is completely up to them. It may be more advantageous for them to mate in the air, depending on their environment and what threats they may have to deal with. This concludes my TED Talk. Thank you for watching.